My problem wasn't with the mute, it was with the.
How's that?
computer.
There it goes.
I thought you were the only one we done.
It's
Oh,
turning
now
green,
it's
right?
turning green. There we go.
When I moved it, it didn't come back.
Oh, okay.
We got it.
Can anybody give you a thumbs up, Shelley?
Yes, Molly just did actually.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, good.
Ourselves.
Okay, now I've got to go back and repeat everything.
Okay, repeat.
You want to get out of here?
Okay, at this point, the meeting is open for public comment. If you wish to speak and have not already done so, please complete a comment card with Ms. Schultes, Titus.
You had it right the first time. Hold on.
Schultes.
It's all good.
I wasn't prepared for that. I got Mr. Bremen down here, so.
At least made it good audible. You didn't read what was on the teleprompter.
No. This is an opportunity to appear before the school board and express your views concerning agenda items and district affairs. We ask that you limit your remarks to 5 minutes. All public speakers are asked to refrain from making personal attacks toward district employees and elected officials. Be advised that your comments do not enjoy the same privilege and immunity as statements made by members of the board from Board of Education. That defamatory or obscene statements are prohibited. Please note that unless specifically indicated on the agenda, this time is not a question and answer period. There's no exchange of conversation with the members of the board or executive staff. However, if your comments require a response, every effort will be made to respond to your inquiry within a reasonable time frame. Thank you for your cooperation. And our first speaker tonight is Jackie Nelson.
Do you mind if I stay in my seat or
No, that's
Not
fine.
at all.
trying to talk through this mask
Yeah.
and stand up might be too much for me. So, good evening. I'm Jacqueline Nelson, and I am speaking on behalf of those whose voices some of you are not hearing. I am here to address the recent vote regarding Access Global Group. Think about these words you all are supposed to abide by. A diverse and innovative educational community that believes through both words and actions that all students can learn and be successful. It's right on the wall. Let me go back to that vote. During the vote, the president stated, and I'm paraphrasing you, sir, okay? I only attended one meeting. I shouldn't base my vote off of one meeting, but I'm going to vote no. So to be clear, that was a no to the work so many have already been doing long before you decided to attend one meeting. That's 2 years of work. Then we have the abstention. My understanding of that is a person does that when it's a conflict of interest, and then they don't want to vote. Was there a conflict of interest? No, the reason for the cop-out was said, I don't know what they do. Is this something required by the state? So let me just say, equity, diversity, and inclusion is not just required by the state, it's in the Constitution. If you're going to vote on something as important as our children's education, our children's rights, then it's your duty to get all of the information before the vote. Don't dismantle without research. So let me share what the Equity Task Force and AGG and other organizations that include the Teacher Center, Connected Community Schools, the YMCA, and yes, the NAACP have done. AGG has laid out a foundation that built a sense of trust between the Rome City School District and the organizations I mentioned. They brought people to the table who were otherwise ignored, created bridges where there were walls, now there's communication, helped people feel like they were being heard, began to address the real equity needs of the Rome City School District, from teachers' behaviors to student access, had authentic interviews with students and teachers and community members about their experiences with the Rome City School District, conducted classroom observations through an equity lens, professional development opportunities through a lived equity lens, practical equity methods were provided to teachers to use in the classroom immediately, and the teachers were starting to use them. Equity professional development opportunities for leadership within the Rome City School District, one-to-one equity counseling for leadership, equity strategies provided to the district leaders to address the closing of Staley, equity consultation, conversations, strategies, and resources to district PLC and site-specific PLC, and became a pilot program for the state of New York, a pilot program. It's clear that not all of you on the school board can fully understand what it takes to do all of this. From the district and building administrators to teachers and staff who started these discussions and wanted to do more, to the organizations who offered their assistance and support. I know 4 of you got it. That was clear that night. But the other 4 of you, you have totally dismantled the hard work, disregarded marginalized communities, minimized the importance of over 2 years of work and the wonderful staff and teachers who are willing to do the work, especially during these challenging times. Just so you know, equity, diversity, and inclusion does not just show up when you hire a DEI officer. It was the foundation that was being laid that was going to lead the Rome City School District to the forefront, and perhaps a successful DEI officer later. Let's finish the work we started so all children, Black and brown, different religions, different backgrounds, LGBTQ, poor children, children for whatever reason don't have adults to advocate for them, those who learn differently, those who are disabled, and yes, those who have privilege, so they all can learn to work and play together, accept each other, and go out into the community or the world as productive citizens. With positive memories of their school days. That's what equity is. I strongly urge those of you who have voted no, please keep the children who have no voices in mind when making future decisions. It's not about you. It's not about your children. It's about our community's children and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Nelson.
So just now.
Our next speaker, Sarita Ruiz.
Oh, boy. Hola, everybody, excuse me. How's everybody doing today? Good, excellent. So the last time I was here a few months ago, I let you know about an incident that happened in my daughter's social studies class. Does everybody remember that? Yeah, I didn't get any inquiry after or anything, so nobody really knows what happened with that. I think it's pretty sad that here I am again today echoing Ms. Nelson's views on the ACG or ACC. I think it's pretty sad that so much work that was put into this and it was just getting started, It was just gone, poof, like that. For all the media attention that has been given to this new initiative, so-called, of how you guys are working together with the NAACP and working together with the community, you almost had a school, almost. And then this happened. If you don't know about the school board, then don't run for the school board. If you're not going to be there to vote, then don't be on the school board. If you can't zoom in and take a minute out of your day, then don't do it. You should know what you're talking about when you run for the school board, period. Because these are issues that people in the community have been working for a long time to get you guys to even open your eyes to see that this is a problem. Because what happens is when you're not in that position, you don't see a problem until it's brought to your attention again and again and again. And then what happens is sometimes the truth hurts and it starts to get a little uncomfortable. And then people back away. Fear, that fight or flight. Get scared that the truth is going to come out. So you shoot down something that they've been working so hard for. So many plans were set for the next year, and we were very hopeful on it. I am disappointed extremely in this board. And again, that vote, why it was not tabled, is beyond me. Maybe that would be great if we had an answer to that tonight. Why on earth wasn't it tabled? Because I say, why not? Why not? A few other things. Your buses at RFA don't have any monitors. The kids are vaping on the bus. Kids are screaming and cursing at the bus drivers. It's disgusting. Get a monitor on there, please. There's no reason why. And these kids need to be held accountable as well. No monitors on the bus. What else we got on this? I didn't put together a nicely thing tonight. Let's see. The politicizing of schools, it's getting pretty disgusting. I read it in the Rome Sentinel. The whole thing going against the COVID restrictions for the sports, I think it's really selfish, extremely selfish to all the other kids that don't play sports, to where now those kids that were just at the basketball game with how many hundreds of people you want to pack it with because you don't want to follow restrictions and quote, do your own thing. Now those kids got to go sit next to my kid and every other kid that wasn't there. How selfish is that? So we're just going to do a free for all and go against the recommendations. We're still masked on. We got 2 new variants out there. This is not over. But I think you really need to think about that first before going on this grandiose journey of we're going to just do what we want. You're not the only ones here. There's a bunch of people here. There's a lot of kids in that school. And I think when you do that, when you politicize these things, all you're doing is putting people against each other. And it's really sick. The other last thing I'd like to say is, yeah, this is Rome, New York. This ain't Rome, Georgia. It's very different up here. So please know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yes, there's no back and forth.
No, no,
There's no back and forth.
No.
One other little side note, actually 2. You're still not streaming on Facebook, correct? Because I believe I mentioned that several months ago when I was here. It'd be really smart to start so that I don't have to do it. And so that also people in the community that can't get here can actually know what's going down in these meetings. So you really, really should start to please live stream this. It takes 2 seconds, 2 seconds. And just a note from my mother, who I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. She's a therapist in Rome. She is a private therapist, and there are no referrals currently. There is a lack of referrals to private students, to private therapists of the students, and there's no communication with private therapists if a student is in active treatment. Here's what I want to say about that. If a classroom is set for 25 kids, how many kids you want? 25, right? You don't want 40 kids in that class. You don't want 45 kids in that class. So why on earth would you put single-digit number of therapists in charge of hundreds of kids? It doesn't make any sense. You've got how many therapists for all these kids? There's no communication going on. And this is coming from my mom, it ain't coming from me. And she's licensed in what she does. She knows what she's talking about. So there needs to be more communication. Stop putting everything on the school therapy. I'm not questioning their ability. I'm saying when you have all of those kids for one therapist or 2 or 3 therapists, the quality is not there. It's not. And these kids need more attention than that. That's all I got for you tonight.
Thank you, Sarita.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next speaker is Felicia Williams.
Again, going back to this board. We are a diverse and innovative educational community that believes through both words and actions that all students can learn and be successful. Well, my daughter, she attends Stroud. And she comes home with stories almost every day. I have 2 of them that I'm going to read, but she's beginning to feel like she doesn't have a voice. Okay, she gets called all kind of things. She gets called dreadhead. She gets called, because dreadhead, because she had braids. She gets called all kinds of things because she's Black by students. And when she, according to her, because she's right here, according to her, when she went to a teacher, the teacher told her that just stay away. So teachers are supposed to be experienced, dedicated, motivated, in the support of all students. How can they do that if they're not being trained to handle the situations? Now, one thing she came home with was at study hall, a boy in my class was comparing me to a Black girl, and the girl from Polar Express. He said, imagine being Black, and said, I was gay, and said, all Black people are gay. And she said she doesn't know the boy. So she told the teacher, and he just looked at her and didn't do anything. Maybe because he didn't know what to do. Maybe because he didn't know what to say. Another was a boy in her class called me, well, I can't say it because it's derogatory, at gym class because I wasn't putting in effort. I replied back with, why are you getting mad over gym? He also, and this is in her words, he also told me to kill myself and to jump off of a bridge. I told the gym coach, and they just told me to stay away and don't talk to him, which is kind of impossible when he comes up to me and says that these things. He also kicked the soccer ball at my head and laughed. So she feels like she doesn't have a voice because no one is listening to her. I'm just afraid that she can get hurt because that's a form of bullying. Why can't the teachers be trained to help her? Not only her, but I'm sure other students out there, the same thing is happening to them. You threw away, you took away the one thing that may have helped her and other students. So please bring it back. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Felicia. And our last speaker is somebody named AO.
Right. Yeah, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. You know what? You know what? One of my friends that I grew up with, she reached out to me. She told me to come here and play. I have so much other things going on, right? And I made time to be here. And just by hearing your story, I'm about to be your voice. You know, now you understand? So I promise you, I'm gonna stop it.
Okay, before you start, I do need your full name.
My name is Anthony Owens. I've been called AO since kindergarten. I grew up in Rome. I'm very, very familiar with those kind of stories, but I didn't even come here for that. Like, but I don't even know if I even want to like really discuss what I really came here for after hearing everything that's going on. And how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
You know who this is,
I
right?
do know
All
who
right,
you are.
excellent. Just making sure. I'll just take this off so that way it'll be a little easier for me to speak. I'm not new to the area, but what I'm bringing is new to the area. I'm responsible for an audio and video production company. I film up and down the East Coast. My company was located in Big Apple Music Plaza since 2018. I filmed documentaries, feature film, commercials. This setup that you're running right here, just from like seeing what was going on, I already knew the technical difficulties that you're experiencing because I'm familiar with IT. I'm familiar with audio engineering. I have a bachelor's in digital cinematography and a master's in digital marketing. Right now, I'm bringing in like a gaming studio and gaming arena and event center for this area. I came up here to talk about building workshops from what I have going on and creating a bridge to RFA. I have several other school districts and other schools already on board with what I have going on. I've been interning like over 40 kids from everything from audio engineering, graphic design, stop motion animation. We've been working with Legos and we've been working with actual, like everything you can think of, from projectors and 4K resolution up to monitors with 8K resolution, pushing out 240 hertz per second. And then on the filming side, on the audio and video side of things, I have just everything that I want to bring to the table for this community is going to be ground changing. And it may not be what was turned down, that I really don't have much experience or much knowledge to be able to speak on what you're trying to make happen. But what I do know is that I can create something entirely new, and I have no problem at all collaborating with you on any level to make it happen, because it's not like it's coming or something. It's already here. I could have had our grand opening earlier this year, but I chose not to because I wanted to wait until spring came. So now, because I have other things going on too, but there's a strong possibility that I'll be bringing esports and building an esports arena to a local college in the Syracuse area. I would love to see what you guys have going for esports, since Land Mob, I believe, donated some stuff to you. What's going on with that project? That's that's kind of like what my motive and my intent of being here, because I have a gaming studio. I have my school has their own facility. What are we doing for that? For the next, that's what I believe is the next frontier when it comes to digital life and digital acumen for our students to be able to have a strong, like everything that board says, being able to have a strong sense of independency whenever they step outside their doors and not have to deal with anything racial. Like I grew up in Rome. I know how it is. And it be like that, where somebody will be like, oh, you know what, that's not my kid, but if it was my kid, then I'll raise hell. I just came up here from Utica. My daughter and my son goes to RFA right now. My daughter has coarse hair. She experiencing the same thing this young girl's going through. And here I am trying to create a platform for not only the school district, but thousands of other kids that are going to come through here. Because we have programs K through 12, not just here, but I want to create programs for the high schoolers to go up to the collegiate level and really take their esports and gaming stuff. You guys may not understand, but this is a $30 billion industry domestically, and it's even more worldwide. We can be at the forefront of it in this area, but there's some other things that need to be addressed. I've actually been over at Stroud with Mr. Yurto, and I have no problem at all going over there and speaking and kind of connecting, because I don't no in all respect and stuff, I don't look like y'all. So I can connect with them on a totally different level. If you're going through a bunch of stuff where somebody is talking to you like that, I can connect with them on a different level, because most of them want to rap, most of them want to draw, most of them want to design. I know how to do all that stuff. So if they want to get a little bit closer, please, let's straighten up our behavior a little bit. Treat each other like how we should be treated. Don't allow outside media sources and things of that nature to dictate how we should treat each other just because we don't look the same as the next person. Have instant respect until that respect is broken, right? I can come there and I can bring this there. And on top of that, I rap too. So I any level they want to take it, and I got a band. I know live instrumentation. My son plays 5 instruments. We got 4 different languages going in our house: Japanese, Spanish, Italian, everything. Let's go. Let's go. I'm fired up for the area, but there's some stuff that needs to get addressed before I just open my arms wholeheartedly to the district, because we can't be having this in our community. Mm-hmm. For your kids and mine. And what's up? What's happening tomorrow? Is what and that.
Mhm. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Very well. Hey, yo.
Anybody else that would like to speak?
I would like to say something.
We the client just talk.
Here.
I know. I just real briefly, first thing I wanted to say, just because I wrote it down, I was not the person that asked if it was mandated. That was board member or BOE. That was not me. Okay. Second of all, I've already said to you, Ms. Nelson, explained to you why I did and voted the way that I voted or abstained. I am aware that that is not a good enough reason. And I've also spoken with Kara and given a statement, which will come out at some point, about why I did what I did. And I stand by it. Felicia, listening to you speak about your daughter, as many people here already know that my daughter went through very similar issues So to be called a cop-out because I was honest about the fact that I was not sure how to vote, it's hurtful, but I'm a big girl and I'll move on and it's not gonna stop me. DEI is very important to me. It's one of the reasons that I ran. And I'm done saying I'm sorry. Just watch. And that's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to say a couple of things too. One, I want to say I'm very sorry that your daughter's gone through that, and I hope that with our principal here, maybe some things will change. Either he may not have been aware of, so that's what I'm hoping, because no student should have to go through that. I totally agree. And the vote on AGG wasn't to disband DEI. We still have the equity task force. And we just need some new leadership there. And that's what I think board members that voted not to approve it felt. Anybody else?
I just want to follow up what Mr. Nash said. I have spent 2 years working on the equity task force. I do find this work vital because we have so many marginalized kids in our district for the variety of reasons that Ms. Nelson has listed. And I don't ever want to hear that a child doesn't feel like they are in a safe and welcoming learning environment. I voted my conscience based on, are we getting the best return on investment for a significant amount of money? And did we follow appropriate board policy to procure that service? Have we gone out and gotten comparative quotes? Are we looking at the person with the most experience? And in the instance of what you're talking about, wanting more professional development and wanting more sensitivity training and wanting inherent bias training, when we only have access to someone 8 to 10 hours a month versus having someone full-time, I don't know how we achieve that with the size of this district. And I also voted no and voted my conscience as Ms. Reddick did that night on other contracts for the same reason, because we have a very difficult job on this board of balancing our policy and initiatives and the direction and tone we want for our district with how we are expending our funds and if we are having an appropriate return on investment and if we are good school stewards of the community's funds, the districts and states and federal funds. So those of us, you talked about tabling it. We did talk about this. We had conversations, we had discussions in some of our committee meetings of why we were all concerned, and we voted accordingly. We didn't do that without thought and without investigation. And I don't think anyone realizes that most of us, I would say on average, put in 10 to 20 hours a week just in our board service. We're trying and we care about kids, and that's why we run. So I know that you're all disappointed in that vote, and I understand that, but it is absolutely not because we don't believe that DEI is one of the most important factors that we have to consider. Everything we do in this district should be through a lens of equity, including who we hire.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else? Okay, well, again, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate the public comment portion, because if you don't tell us, sometimes we don't know exactly all the nitty gritty stuff that's going on. Okay. Okay. Okay.
And
Now,
Felicia, I'm sorry, I'd like to thank your daughter for coming because it's really brave to come in this room.
Yeah.
And we know that. So thank you for being here and being a voice, because maybe when you're here, another student will feel comfortable to speak out. If not coming to this meeting, then going to Mr. O'Rourke's office or going to your school social worker or going to your SRO or finding someone in your school you trust. So don't stop being a force and a voice for your classmates and yourself.
okay, facilities update. Alex.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Great to be here. To talk about a few things here. First one, EPC. We're currently in phase 2, EPC 2. We had a mechanical piping walkthrough just the other day for a punch list. Things look good, so we got that done. The lighting upgrade installations are currently ongoing. Commissioning of the lighting is following the installation. I know that that's caused a few issues. We've experienced it here as well. I did ask if that could be changed around and we could get that all done. It's not the way they set it up, so we have to get them installed. Then the commissioners will all come on site and do that work. Additional, they're called WACs, they're wireless access points, had to be installed to strengthen the lighting communication network signals. So just like everything else that in today's technology, there seems to be a network for everything. So the new light system has a network as well. They need to communicate. And our buildings being as old as they are, they're not conducive to the signal flowing freely, I'll say. So you have to put in some repeaters here and there. So they did that. Some of the fixtures are still, we're waiting on them due to lead time and equipment. We're going through the same thing that the rest of the world's going through right now. Lead times are increasing. The materials that are getting the long lead times is increasing as well. So as this pandemic rages on, we start to see more things being affected and being affected worse. Right now, they're looking at possibly 2 Saturdays to do some full top lights at Bellamy Gans, where we'll have to work through that. Building controls integration, the controls integrations graphics work is continuing. On a side, we just wrapped up our retro commissioning with Labella and Associates on RFA. So we got some really good information out of that project. And like I mentioned to you before, every building in the district is going to be retro commissioned for free through NYSERDA, and Labella is going to handle that for us. So although we didn't know at the time, retro commissioning RFA first has taught us a lot about the process. It has exposed some things that we need to look at, and it's gonna really pay off going through each and every building in the district.
I'm sorry, Alex, can you explain what that term means? I missed the last facilities meeting,
Okay.
retro commission. Can you just clarify?
Basically, when you build a new building and you put a new heating and cooling system in, it needs to be commissioned after it's installed and the building management systems are programmed. Basically, what it is you have another set of engineers. Generally speaking, you want them to be independent of the installers and the designers, so that they kind of look things over for us and for whoever they're serving. And they make sure that the proper ventilation is supplied, the proper water pressure and the heating loops is supplied, and they're balanced. I could probably compare it to like your own home. Generally speaking, folks have a room in their house that seems to be colder than the rest or hotter. In your basement, you have ducts. If it's a forced air system, there's dampers on them, and you balance your system with those dampers. And so when you build a huge building, that all has to be worked out. So they will go into each space, they'll measure CFMs coming out of the ductwork, they'll measure the temperature differentials and the equipment and make sure everything's working well, basically.
Okay.
And also when you do a certain amount of work on an HVAC system in school buildings, these things are supposed to be done as well. So I think it's going to identify a lot of the issues that we've been having. I've asked the first school to be Joy because of the humidity that we suffered through last summer, the condensation on the floors, someone fell down. So I thought that would be a really good place to start there and solve that problem. We tried everything on our own to try to figure it out, and we came up short. So I think it's going to be a welcome fix there. So we're going to do that district wide. And so lost my place here a little bit.
Could you repeat the funding source for that?
NYSERDA. It's a grant for high need schools. All right, so the unitary graphics and floor plans for new unit events are available to the district. They can be used for Niagara system for monitoring. Basically, that is the new equipment is coming online. The new control system is coming online. Not as soon as I would like, and the way it's done is it's not all just flip the switch. There's so many points. Equipment is called points in the system that they have to migrate some at a time. So right now, we'll look at the system. We basically have 2 systems going. Mark will look at one, it's black, you got to go to the other, and sometimes we have to call the engineer because he has control of it. So we're working through that, but it's a long, tedious process. The cloth boiler work has been completed here. The flue extensions are slated to be added. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the exhaust gases go out, basically a chimney. They came straight out the edge of the boiler room. the wind would tumble there and you would get, basically you'd walk through fog coming in the door. And so we had some really good pictures and video of that and put it forth, and they're gonna extend those flues above the roof line there. Like I said earlier, we did a mechanical piping walkthrough. Not sure if we're gonna call it substantial completion yet, but the walkthrough looked pretty good. So I've got questions out in that area. Okay. The next one I'm talking about is Staley. So this week walked through Staley with Patrick Sullivan in the IT department, looking to identify the IT equipment that's in there currently, what they're going to save, what's going to be disposed of, what they want to keep in other areas, basically keeping wax again on the walls there. Smart boards are coming down, telephones, printers, things of that nature. It's being labeled and moved. We're also making a really good effort to get things out of Staley. We've come across some personal items. There's still some curriculum type stuff there that's being labeled and getting ready to be moved to where it needs to go. We're kind of staging everything in the gym side of the building, auditorium side of the building. If you remember the event, that side of the building, although it did get wet, it seemed to be the high ground. So my plan is to pretty much isolate from that gym hallway over, put up some zip walls, put some poly up there, and just try to keep that end as dry as possible, because after the holidays, we're going to have to shut off the power there. So we're going to have to get everything to where we can work on it and get it out. We're prioritizing what we get out first. We want our most valuable things out of there first, and that's what we're working on. We're storing some of that at Fort Stanwix, which we'll have to figure out someday if it ever sells, where we put that stuff from there.
Well, Alex, can I ask before you go on, because I'll forget, why do we have to turn the heat off? I'm just curious. I
At
don't.
Staley,
Yeah.
the day of the event, National Grid came on site, and because our gas main was basically submerged, part of it.
Oh,
You have to let them know when that occurs, anything like that.
okay.
We called them. They looked at the gas main. Yep. They looked in the boiler room. Yeah, we got to cut you off. So they basically red tag us. They shut it off.
Oh, because like it's not safe or something?
That's correct.
Oh,
Well, right, the
It's-
boilers were submerged, right? They were
right,
not
okay.
Yeah, we had
recoverable.
4.5 feet of water in the boiler room, and all the mechanical equipment pretty much was underwater. Got fried.
So the water's off now, I assume in the same, so that we won't have any pipes burst or anything. That's
Correct. Yep. So we brought in Siemens, and they helped us do the shutdown.
They were
okay.
the big fan
Experience at
people,
this.
right? They were the big fan people, right?
Siemens?
Were they
Yeah.
when they did the big fans? Who did the big fans?
Yeah, they do
The
fans. They do
Property
all
Yeah,
kinds of
restoration.
okay.
mechanical
Okay.
building work. So they came in, helped us shut it down. They're experts at this. They do it. Pump out or blow out all the water lines, domestic and heating, shut things down, tag them out, whatever you have to do. So that day, the gas got shut off. When we were trying to see if we could actually get the things going again, you need gas to troubleshoot a boiler. So I contacted National Grid. We got Siemens there. We got the experts there. National Grid came and, looked at it, and basically, they weren't very comfortable with turning the gas on that day. So back to the drawing board, and from what Siemens told us, you don't want to attempt to reuse any of this equipment. You're looking at replacement. So that being said, we had electrical boxes that got wet as well. I think it's best for us to shut the power off as soon as possible, which I want to make sure that we get all our things out of there first, button it up nice and tight, and then pull the plug. So as part of that, shutting down Staley, there is a large parking lot there. It was just being used by First Student. They had a plan to plow the space they were using. They're now gone. However, we're going to block off the parking lot, except for a path around the building for fire protection and security, and save our resources and not plow that giant parking lot and salt it every time it snows this winter. So we're going to block it off so no one can get in there. And we're gonna save money doing that, and precious time, because the grounds crew doesn't have a whole lot of time to get the snow removed before the start of school. So roughly every time we don't plow there, you're gonna save around $152. So in about a little over 6 days, you know, we're gonna pay for the barricades that we're gonna buy to place there. And we'll save the wear and tear on our equipment as well. Okay, any questions on any of that?
Where's everything gonna go?
We're gonna have to figure that out.
Because I'm gonna
School-
assume there's stuff, like if the smart boards and then the cafeteria stuff. I mean, there's gotta be a lot of stuff there still.
Well, some of the technology, and I don't want to speak for Patrick.
No, I
but
know.
Some of the technology is already obsolete. There's other things that were purchased in place of it. So he's gone through and he's identified all of that.
So Alex, would the reason be that teachers left contents is they just don't have a place wherever they've been displaced to put it?
So
I
one of
think
the
there's-
problems is a lot of the personal belongings shouldn't be in a school to begin with. We've had this conversation repeatedly with staff that, you know, you really shouldn't be bringing in a refrigerator to your classroom. There's code violations with it. Even things that you think would be a fun comfy chair to have in a classroom, because they need to be fire rated, they shouldn't be there. So what's happened, Staley's a great example. I mean, the building's been open forever. Times have changed. So 20 years ago, some of that was more acceptable than today. So when we vacated the building, people just left. And so where they're going, we either said those things can't go with you, or they haven't had time to go back and get them. So that's kind of where we're at with the personal belongings, is going through and seeing who has stuff there. Dana's been instrumental in working with the teachers for Alex's team on, hey, teacher Y, you have some things at the building. What would you like us to do with them? Would you like to, it's time to come get them? Do you want us to store them for you for a little bit so you have more free time? So we're working through that kind of individually with the teachers. The fortunate thing, Karen, to your question is, a lot of our furniture is obsolete, it's just old and just needs to
Okay.
go. So we did have some brand new furniture at Staley, which Dana has worked with Alex and his team on getting to the right classrooms in the other buildings. Cafeteria tables, like if they have new things that are worthwhile, we're bringing them to a building, letting a building use something newer, taking the old furniture from the other building and either taking it to the fort or putting it in the storage containers that we have at the buildings right now. A lot of that stuff is going to be discarded eventually. The smart boards, as you know, that's an obsolete technology. So what Patrick will do is he'll take the projectors and the smart boards, we'll store them, and as something breaks or something in a building that's currently using those devices still, we'll just replace them as opposed to ordering new. And we had that same situation when Stroud went back to the middle school. We had a lot of excess technology that Patrick's been able to draw down. So but it doesn't mean that it's easy, because there's still a lot of stuff and not a lot of space.
Yeah,
So
that's my question. Yeah, where's it all
it-
gonna
it's
go?
been- It's been a process, and it's been a coordinated effort between Alex and his crew, and then I would say Chris and his crew, but it's really been Dana who's been instrumental working with Alex and the grounds folks on getting in contact with the teachers that need things.
Dana's been very helpful. Appreciate all the help. Okay. The next one I have is stadium itself, the seating area. As you know, we have had it closed for quite a while now due to, at the end of the summer, we had a mold outbreak in the workroom there. It was totally covered. I've never seen mold to that degree in my life. I saw a whole mold colony grow out. Generally, you don't see that. You'll see a radius of about 4.5 feet in concentric circles. And it's not pretty. So we cleaned that up. That cost us approximately, I think it was $9,000 at the time. The company we worked with, although a newer company, they were the low quote. They were very good, very knowledgeable, and shared with us their expertise. I asked for a quote for the remainder of the building, and I like the help in the direction we got from the company, which was, this is a lot of money. We're more than happy to do it for you. However, you need to solve the problem. The problem's the moisture infiltration and the high humidity levels in that space. So we cleaned up the mold that was there in the workroom, and we sealed up the building. We had Labella, our architects, out there last week, and I walked them through. They looked at a few things to stop the water infiltration. Basically, where the seating and the benches are, there was a coating applied to the concrete there, and precast concrete sections, and that kept it watertight underneath for a period of time. They don't last forever. The engineers looked at it and they saw that it appeared to be recoated at some time in the past. but that coating has failed. And so there's water infiltration, it gets into concrete, comes inside to cause problems. So we have kind of two options that they presented at the time. There may be more, but this is what they've given you so far. You can have a coating, you can put a coating on there, which is a sacrificial coating, which would be kind of similar to the coating that you put on your driveway. After a few years, it's gone. It sacrifices itself so that your driveway doesn't get eaten away. So we could put a coating like that on there, which would require us to remove all the seeding, shot blast, clean all areas to the concrete, grind, clean, patch, cracking and spalling, wire brush, and waterproofing, wire brush, waterproofing membrane, and paint from all existing structural steel risers to bare steel. So basically clean everything up down to bare metal or concrete. Prime and install new monolithic waterproofing membrane, which is basically, it's liquid. When you put it on, it dries. Monolithic means one, so it dries into one big sheet of rubber. That's a sacrificial one, so it's less money. However, the warranty is much less. There's a more expensive way to go, which the top end of the sacrificial estimate right now is 400,000. With the permanent coating, you're going to get about 20 years, but it's going to be probably double the cost.
So we're looking between 400 and 800 between option A and option B.
And what I'll caution is, generally speaking, when you remove a coating or a roof or something that has structure, whatever underneath, you're going to find some surprises. So generally speaking, it's going to go up a little bit higher.
And there's no option C at this point of
Not really.
reconstruct or,
Well, there's always an option to reconstruct, but again, the problem,
well, the problem is no aid. We know this part.
that plus you will lose all the things that you have underneath the seating that's not allowed per code now. So the snack shack, the bathrooms, the team rooms, that whole hallway goes away.
Okay, but
Basically,
we couldn't, I mean, we have stadium support right there. We couldn't
Yes.
relocate some of those things to,
I'm sure you could.
I guess the
Yeah, but
difficulty-
you'd be left with a metal bleacher system.
That's
but
what
With
the
nothing
challenge
underneath.
that we have at this point is we invested an enormous amount of money in a new turf and track, but we don't have sufficient stadium facilities, and it's just a problem. It was not well thought out in terms of that. But I have to agree with you. I mean, my son plays lacrosse, and last spring, I mean, obviously the mold, we had more rain through this spring and summer than we have in many, many years. But we went under the stadium to get out of the rain, and it was pouring inside, not dripping, like pouring. So I understand firsthand the severity of it, but I also understand we've already now made the investment to continue using that field. So I guess as a board, we have to explore every option for a resolution.
What's the structural integrity of
The
this?
structural engineer was out yesterday. Called him on the phone. I had another appointment at the time, but he's still giving me his report. He didn't really say that, it was unsafe structurally or structurally inefficient, so I'm still waiting for that report, but his first gander didn't seem, too alarming.
I mean,
We did have them look at the structure prior last year when we were looking at all of the, the turf and all that. They didn't see any issues then. Basically, what I did get out of him this time, he was driving, so I was trying to, some corrosion, some rust, things of that nature. He's been, you're gonna have to get that off, get a good look, but he really didn't, give me any alarming information at the time. So I could share the report when it comes.
Alex, could that work be done safely to protect the investment we already made? Meaning,
Oh, it'll have to be.
okay,
Yeah, they can do it. They do it all the time.
so
okay.
There may be some downtime involved with the track because of the proximity of the work getting done for a spell. That could potentially impact it.
well, I mean, 800 is a big number, but it's not, what, 15 million or so to replace it, right? I mean, that's essentially what it would cost, and then you're losing facilities, right? So,
Right, but remember, these are coatings. And at the top end of the higher costing coating, I think the warranty they said was 20 years. You know, just like your roof shingles, you buy 30-year shingles, in 15 years you're changing.
Right.
So generally speaking, that's under laboratory perfect conditions. They don't exist out in the outside world. So in the future, you're gonna have to address this again at some point. And so, you know, I don't know if you make the decision now to do a more permanent fix and just get away from these coatings, or just, you know, continue like we have.
So what are we talking cost wise for a permanent fix estimate?
I'm really not sure. I'd have to talk to the architects on that, because I'm not sure what'll fit. I'm not sure, you know, there's a whole lot of variables there. So if you move it, cost can go up. If you move it around the corner closer, you know, there's a lot involved there.
I mean, I guess we as a board is gonna have to figure out where we want to be 20 years from now, right? If we're gonna do that. I mean, that's a long period of time. Let's face it. I mean, I know that you're saying that it's temporary, but 20 years is a,
Quasi permanent. Now, remember, it's a coating, so that's when I say,
Mhm.
you know, if you have someone, and I don't want to blame the child, if you have someone that just gets bored and they're just sitting there with something sharp, maybe an umbrella tip, and just keeps doing this, after a while, you know, that's not good. It's like the same thing as your roof, you know, yeah, it's gonna hold up for a while, but the wear and tear is gonna get it. But the coating would be the quickest fix for now.
can we explore maybe some costs so we can get some ideas of what it would be for a more permanent thing? More
Oh,
permanent.
absolutely.
I mean, I think ultimately we're gonna have to make a decision if we're gonna be there long term, or if we're gonna start. I mean, I know we just put the turf in, but you know, we've got a building that's in a different location than the football field, and it's been that debate that's been going on ever since we built the new school as to where that field should be. And I think that, you know, if we're gonna make some plans, that we should really think about that as an option long term. Maybe not today, maybe not this board, but some board's gonna have to consider it at some point. And I think we should maybe look at some of those numbers now and maybe lay the groundwork, or at least plant a seed as to what we should be doing with that. So
Any more questions on that? Okay. And the last one, Peter touched on it a little bit at the beginning, the portable spaces, met with the architects, principals, and our construction management CNS. Basically, they gave us two options as far as the spaces right now. I asked for the most readily available spaces, because there's no sense in asking for X when it's 2 years away. So what's in the pipeline now? They gave us a couple of options. Basically, the difference between the two was about 4 feet in width. They have a bathroom, and there were some spaces on each end. During the meeting, you know, some things came up which Peter spoke about, and I think it's a smart move. Initially, we didn't think there would be children in there, but you know, the question came up, so we're going to prepare so that we have that option available. So we'll task the architect and construction management to address that now, because the space, the proximity, things change quite a bit when you say you're going to have children in the space. You didn't have an amount, I believe. We're still waiting on that answer. If it's just workspace, you still can have a couple of kids.
So Alex, so it isn't the problem we always run into with funding, whether or not something is instructional space and we get different aid based on that, or is that not a qualifier in this situation because this is a response to the removal of Staley and we need.
I'm not sure.
So in other words, whenever we're looking at our formulas for what we're going to aid, it's based on instructional space. And when we've got to deal with hallways, offices, cafeterias, we don't get the same level of aid for that. So would we get more aid to cover the cost of these modulars if they were used instructionally? Would that help to offset our expense, or is this expense already falling under the umbrella of the FEMA or state ed?
I don't think
because of the flooding.
Temporary structures.
When we're gonna do straw, for instance.
Well, that's what my brain is going back to.
That would have to come out of the approved budget. You wouldn't get any extra aid on it. Somebody have to substitute something out of that cost. It's like incidental. Yeah, incidental cost.
Ultimately, it's going to be covered by FEMA funds.
Yes, hopefully.
Okay, so it doesn't behoove us or hurt us if there are or are not students. Other than alleviating some of the burden on the buildings.
Alex, are you talking about, modular units, X number of modular units or different types of modular units? or-
Yes, basic, I mean, it's, only thing I could drive you to is, if you've seen a construction site, you've seen a construction trailer. Although not identical, very similar in construction. You have your heating system on one end, your bathrooms and stuff like that. So you have stairs, or if you have a ramp, it has to meet the codes. So basically, hate to call it a trailer, but kind of a trailer that you show up, set it up. It has to be connected to the utilities, water, sewer, electric. If you want, you may have to have, we're still going through all this alarm system, communications, so it's pretty involved. It's gonna take some time to get them on site and get them ready to go. And there's a little bit of concern about that, but on the other end, we're looking at a good period of time before we get a new building or a new space for these folks.
Right.
So one school actually changed their mind at the very beginning. They didn't seem, like it was something for them. But once the term, how long it was gonna take, then, yeah, that was an eye opener. Yeah, we'll take one. So
These units are being leased or are we purchasing them?
they would be leased or rented, yeah.
So how many are we looking at right now?
Right now, we're looking at one for each school, each elementary. Bellamy's asking for two, we're asking for one here as well. And we may be able to fit two at Bellamy. Gans is gonna be really, really tight, really.
Well, we
Only
had that
space I see
issue
there is
previously.
between, if you stand in front of the school, the neighbor on the right, there's a strip of grass there that goes all the way to the back of the building. That seems to be the only spot that we could put one there, and I'm hoping that there's enough space to do that.
Maybe we can drop it in the center space.
We're good friends with him. He'll move his fence for us.
Get the train. All right, so this is gonna take some time. We're gonna stay on it, and we'll keep you updated as we go along. But we may find that one or two schools just can't have one due to logistics and utilities and setbacks, and there's required spaces that are required between different things. We'll stay on.
Alex, I made two quick notes earlier. One, I want to say, my first year on the board, we toured RFA and looked at all the EPC and the boilers, and I have to tell you, the stairwells look beautiful. So much safer and very attractive looking, and I hope we had a wonderful Pride Walk with Mr. O'Rourke, and he pointed out some things on a wish list or necessity list for Stroud, and I would hope that that's something similar that we might be able to do there, because they turned out beautifully. But an additional concern that I do have, kind of similar to, we built a beautiful turf, but we're having stadium issues. We put in a gorgeous gym floor and did some upgrades to the main gym at RFA, but when we did our Pride Walk there, first of all, that upstairs track is a mess. Obviously, it's 20 years old. But additionally, my son plays basketball, so I spend a lot of time in the gym, just saying. So I'm always looking around. There's a set of doors that have had giant yellow caution tape on them for pretty much the whole school year. And the interesting thing is they're wood grain like this, but the rest of them are metal and painted like that. So I don't know if those two wood doors with the caution tape are original to the building and there's some kind of problem and the metal ones are the upgraded ones, or if the metal ones are original and we tried to put replacement doors in, something's still not working. And I happened to just chat with Mr. LeBaron real quickly and be like, is this safe? Is this? And he's like, I don't know. I feel like there's always caution tape or a bucket and I'm like, well, there's a lot of work going on. So I assume that might be tied to, but if you could fill me in, because again, we welcome a lot of people into that gym. We put this beautiful new floor in and it's kind of an eyesore. And I don't know if it's a safety concern with giant yellow caution tape on the door.
All right. Yes, there is, well, let me start off. There was never a new floor installed. What we did was refinish it. That was one of the first tasks that Peter gave me when I arrived here. And I was glad to get it done for him. And it does look beautiful. The running track upstairs, that's on the BCS. That needs to be replaced. For
Okay.
sure. The doors in the gym, the wooden doors, I will say, are probably spare doors from other areas of the building. If you notice, the gyms, the pools, they have the metal painted doors. The rest of the spaces have the veneer doors. So sometimes they don't, there's like, especially right now, getting materials is extremely difficult.
Yep.
That building, when it was built, what I find very peculiar about that building is most things are custom size.
Oh.
Custom means lots of money and very little availability and long lead times. Almost like I'm trying to replace the dock leveler. It's the thing that goes and lays on the tractor trailers. That's a custom size. And the guy that I'm getting, who does this? You know, because basically you have to take a standard size one and cut it. So that things are all custom size. So it's difficult to get the door leaves and all that. We are currently looking at replacing doors in the gym and in the rest of the building. Entranceways, entrance doors, storefront doors.
Okay.
So there's the gym doors are part of it.
Okay.
So we're doing that as well. So we're working on it. I don't like to see it either. So I take pride in our facilities.
And usually you turn things around really quickly. So I thought, oh, maybe I'm seeing it once, but it's been a couple months now. And I'm like, well, that's weird. We usually don't have a maintenance issue that hangs out like that.
Right.
To your credit. So
Thank you. So we're working on it. We don't like it either, but these are things that are on our radar and are either in the current project, the next one that we're going to vote on, or in the, following in some incidental work.
Okay.
And maybe, I don't know, I don't want to speak for everyone, but Tracy, maybe the stairs can be an incidental project at Stroud. in the next
We're
vote.
gonna arm wrestle for stairs and windows.
find your biggest guy, Trace. Find your biggest guy.
Whatever Tracy wants is what's gonna win.
So as long as we're
I'll
talking
throw it.
about RFA, I just bring it up. I did bring it up at the Buildings and Grounds Committee last time. The pool is not going to be done by mid-December. Obviously, we're here. I'm waiting on CNS to give me a schedule of, not everything's going to be here, not everything's going to be functional, but it had been said that maybe we could still use it for instruction. We're waiting on materials there. The lead times are killing us. That's what
I
put
know.
us in the pool. So I'm still waiting for the schedule to see if we could use it at all until it's completed. As soon as I get that, I'll forward it. I did make Mr. Stamboli aware, and he is still, as I am, waiting for this schedule.
So someone else is hosting the girls this season or
The boys, they're at home. Pat.
oh, it's boys now. Sorry, girls were fall, right?
We're working, I've been working with Michelle and Mike, kind of anticipating that the pool will not be available at all this season. We're working to schedule a well, it's sanctioned, but it's an out of season swim meet where we would invite about 10 schools to the pool once it's finished to give all of our
Nice.
senior swimmers a chance to swim at least one competitive invitational in the pool. So Michelle's working
Excellent.
to get some schools that we wouldn't normally get to compete against to come join kind of in the spring and give the kids a chance to have a special event once the pool is officially opened. And that way, at least the seniors get a chance to swim once in the new space. So we're very cognizant of that. I think maybe some of the swimmers know, I don't know how much Michelle shared, but I think that is keeping some people a little bit more comfortable with the fact that if we don't get there in time for the boys season to end, at least we're going to do something for them.
Great. Thank you.
Any questions on any of them?
Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
That was great
You still want to
information.
have a committee meeting on Tuesday now, or can we cancel that, Paul?
No, I'll think of more questions. now.
Actually, and the thing we haven't talked about is the redistricting,
What do you want to put, Kristen?
which is, something we've gotten some information from the two vendors. I don't know whether, the Tuesday meeting is the appropriate time. I know I've been spending a lot of time looking at it and looking at the requirements, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Alex, that with the redistribution of the students throughout the schools, some schools are really crowded, others are not, capacity wise, and so it varies a little bit, because some of our schools are quite large, like Bellamy has typically held, Daddy is 500 students is not unusual in that, but if you get more than about 300 and some in Ridge or Stokes, and it's getting crowded and you're running out of rooms. Unless you can fill all the rooms up, which you can't do. That's why, that's why the redistricting and balancing of the grade levels, where you could put more students in the same number of classrooms if you could make sure that all the classrooms are full, which you can only do if you have, fewer grade levels. But we've heard that speech before.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot waiting on that, to make some decisions and some rules to accommodate what they come up with. You're very welcome.
Okay, thanks, Alex.
Thanks for your time.
Mr. Brewer, Lisa,
2 minutes, right?
2 minutes.
Well, it better be now.
I'll give you 2.5. I'll give you 2.5
I'll
minutes.
put you on the timer.
2.5. All right, just a, you want me to wait for everybody?
No, go.
No, we gotta go.
Seriously? Okay. Just a reminder to the board and also to the public that may not be aware, tonight I'm going to talk about the district comprehensive improvement plan. If you're interested in taking a look at that, it is online under the academics. We were asked by the state to choose 3 to 5 priorities. We chose 3 this year, and to try to align those with our CSI and TSI schools. We have 3 CSI schools and 1 TSI school.
Why just identify what those acronyms mean for the public? TSI and CSI.
Oh, yeah, targeted support intervention and comprehensive support intervention. You're welcome, no problem. Sorry about that. States worked very, very well with us over the last 3 years throughout the pandemic. And they've listened to quite a bit of our feedback and actually have revised their process throughout the years. I'm part of a target district leader support group each month. And also, as a result of this, we also get a $50,000 SIG grant for the district to use for this plan. And each of the CSI schools and TSI schools receive $200,000 for the priorities to help them out. As we go through this, I'm just going to talk about the where we're at. Excuse me, with the 3 priorities. The first priority is that we commit to providing an engaging, relevant, and inclusive curriculum for all students. On the left-hand side, you will see our strategies that we put into the plan. And so far at this point, what we've done, the curriculum that's board approved is online for the public to view. Board members also have login rights to Atlas. Professional learning on DEI, the administrators have done that through the global access at the beginning of the year. The Rome Teacher Center is providing professional learning last year and this year with DEI. They're working with Dr. Meredith Madden through Hamilton College. We have quite a few teachers that are participating in that professional learning. This year, we put out new elementary curriculum maps to ensure consistency among our 6 buildings. All teachers and principals have the maps. We're working with them so that they can closely monitor as we work through the new curriculum with social studies and science and also our ELA curriculum. We're also looking at the pacing chart and talking regularly at our TC meetings with TCs to see where folks are at with that. So that when we do write the curriculum this summer for social studies and science, we'll understand that pacing and where we need to cut and where we need to add in that new curriculum. The other curriculum that we're going to be working on in summer 2022 is the secondary ELA curriculum. That's needed to be revamped for quite some time. And we're going to begin working on that. We're working with Kate Roberts right now on helping us to revise that. Monitoring attendance and identifying barriers. Right now, we're monitoring student attendance monthly at both the district and building levels. Buildings are monitoring chronically absent students, and we're continuing to look at different ways that we can increase attendance and work with students that are chronically absent. You'll see a little blue thing if you go online to this document. You'll be able to go to the attendance playbook, which all principals have, which are different techniques to get back to school. Priority 2 is our commitment to strengthening connections with all stakeholders to improve students' SEL, social, emotional, and cognitive skills. Currently, principals are working right now on their formal and informal observations for APPR. We're observing much more independent work on the parts of students as we go through school visits when we're out there either on a pride walk or when we're out there doing some walkthroughs. Walkthroughs at this point are a little bit slower at this time of the year. That's pretty traditional for us due to the formal observation process that your principals are doing and trying to get those done. And you'll see an uptick a little bit more when we get into the full winter and spring, where we do some more of those walkthroughs. Dana and I are getting out there a little bit more and doing some of those walkthroughs, taking a look at what's happening. We're monitoring and looking at increases in the benchmark data and having discussions around that data. That's been a big topic at programs at this moment. We're also incorporating the FRECO program to help our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 in both math and ELA. We've seen some success with student growth in that in some of the data that we've looked at recently. All of our professional learning around our new curriculum that we have done is now been imported into ASCD Activate, which is our online platforms. So teachers and principals can access that 24 hours a day, 365 days a year when they're able to. They can also earn and gain CTLE credits through that. The CELSI survey was just put out for teachers, and our teachers are utilizing that in families. It's pilot social emotional learning survey to gain more insights into the social emotional learning needs of our students. And lastly, I wanted to mention the second step digital resources that we brought in this year. That goes along with the second step that we originally used that were it helps the guidance counselors when they're in and out of classes because they were all disked and things, and they just weren't able to connect easily with the smartboard to be able to use those interactive videos with the students as they do that. The second step is our social emotional learning program that the guidance counselors work with our elementary students on. Peer interaction and collaborative work. We're observing that through the observation process currently. Increasing access to culturally diverse experiences for our students. We're working through our BOCES EE and Arts COSER. That's been kind of hard assemblies right now due to our situation with COVID, but we're starting to look at those and trying to move on some of those. A lot of those assemblies were put into the SIG grants to fund that. We're doing book studies on DEI at the Rome Teacher Center, also that work with our Hamilton College professor. The district level administrators, that includes myself, Mr. Blake, the two ladies from Ed Programs, and also Amanda Jones in Guidance. We're doing a book study through the Syracuse University Study Council, and it's the 5 practices for equity-focused school leadership. We're also purchasing last year and this year, that's part of our SIG grants, diverse books for our elementary classrooms for either independent reading or book clubs within the classrooms. Student recognitions, we're continuing to highlight student success on school and district platforms. Our SIG funding also is going to give us some money for some of those recognition ceremonies at the school. And priority 3, creating a safe, nurturing, and engaging environment that promotes student voice and leadership opportunities. We're looking and monitoring during our observations, the student engagement and participation. The NICET rubric, some of our indicators on there specifically focus on student self-assessment and opportunities that students have to self-assess their own learning. We're continuing to emphasize and promote independent reading in all classrooms, promoting student choice and voice in that. Again, schools are purchasing classroom libraries through that SIG grant. We're working our way up through the middle and high school. And then continuing working on student feedback and the development of instructional practices. That's teachers gaining feedback from students of what types of instructional practices are working for them in the learning process. Increasing leadership opportunities for students. We have a student member on the Board of Education. I presented to Ed Programs our new ESSA dashboard that we're going to be able to utilize. One of the things that we looked at was the ESSA indicator for college career and civic readiness, which we score a 4 on. on that. We've actually exceeded what the state expects for us to do with that, something that we should be very proud of in this district. And then we're also working on the pilot for the civic readiness seal this school year, along with one other school in our Madison Oneida BOCES district, BBS. And student participation in the set plans. I'm not sure why I put that there. To be honest with you, that has nothing to do with that. Sorry about that. Any questions?
Just an example of that, as you mentioned on the one about funding for more student recognition and that being part of priority two. Alana, I guess I would ask you this. I know that when we did our Pride Walk with Mr. LeBaron, he pointed out, or it might have just been on one of my visits to RFA, that he's doing new awards. Is it something that you've heard recently? Is it visible to you as a student? Do you feel like that's?
Yes, it is very visible. I do our morning announcements, so I may be able to pay more attention than some students do because he's right there, but he reads every student and the accomplishment over the announcements.
He created like 5 or 6 different awards, right?
Yeah,
So they're
there's
not
a
all
variety.
academic. They're like,
Yes, there's a variety. I know there's a principal award, like Student Week, it's special recognition specifically from him. I don't know the main.
yeah, I
names
mean,
of
there
them,
was
but-
one for just like someone who's making progress. There's one that, I mean, they were, you know, he just went over them with me briefly, but I mean, I think it's important to be, they're not just for the top achieving students. They're awards to recognize kids for pushing past their own individual limits as opposed to. So I think that it's nice as a parent to see that one of these big goals we set for the district is happening, you know, visibly. So I know you guys are all used to elementary school, right? And your kid is a bucket filler or a star student. And sometimes we lose that in 7 through 12. We don't hear that same type of thing. So I was really impressed with Mr. LeBaron saying that. And especially, it's always great for us when one of the committees or department heads say to us, hey, here's the thing we wanted to do. And then we're like, oh, look, it happened. And that's bringing it all back together. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, because that was a.
Last point, sorry about that. The student participation, what I meant to say was in all of the SEP plans, each of the principals, teams have worked that student participation part in that. A lot of it at the elementary level, especially, was forming student councils and being able to do that. Because of some of the transportation issues after school, that's been a little bit of a slow start this year. So that's something that we're still working on. Did also want to mention with the DSEP real quick is that in every school building in the district office, if you're interested also, that is our DSEP plan up there, and that's in every classroom throughout the district also. So what I just talked about is right up here on this board, right?
Good. Any other questions for Chris? Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it. Okay. Time for the consent agenda. Looking to accept the consent agenda. Sorry, I believe.
Yes.
As part of recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the consent agenda be accepted by the Board of Education. I move that resolution.
Second.
Second by Ms. McGurl. Any discussion?
I have a question on page 4 on the CSE CPSE report, which is pretty massive this particular month in terms of the number of entries. But when I went to the backup to look at the individual items, I found there's some unusual things, and I don't know exactly what was. For instance, most of the items where they were reprogramming the different student programs were done with a caption that it wasn't as a result of a meeting by the committee. It was, I guess, just done administratively. I think almost all of them were that way, changing essentially their IEP or describing their program going forward. And then just the sheer number. I mean, you can look at there's between the two columns, there's over 200 entries there. I'm just curious as to
So quickly.
Why it was so different.
The department has been backlogged, so they're finally clearing some through. The administrative changes were because we switched from a 4 marking period to a 3 marking period, or 4 reporting periods to 3 reporting periods. So we have to amend the IEPs to line up with what is actually happening with reporting. So that's a simple administrative change.
Those reports have been very helpful, by the way, to be able to see.
Any further discussion? All in favor of consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, a regular meeting agenda. Finance, we have nothing. And our next committee meeting will be Tuesday, January 11th at 10 a.m. We met this past Tuesday, and no agenda in front of me, so I don't recall everything that we talked about, but it'll be on the next agenda. I think well, we got the EA put the budget transfers on here, right? And the consent agenda.
And in January, we're gonna start our budget retreats, is that?
Yes,
Yes.
we just need to pick a day of the week that we're gonna do that on. And we'll do the same thing we did last year. We'll do 3 consecutive weeks on all 3 parts of the budget.
What day? I'm going to start right now, but just quick poll, what's a good day for everybody?
Wednesday.
I can do Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday's good for me.
Anybody who cannot do
Wednesdays in
what,
general.
Karen?
Just not the first Wednesday.
But we're
So
not
we-
doing the first one.
Yeah.
So we
Right,
did-
so, yeah, the
Okay.
Wednesdays are good.
That's probably what we'll shoot for. Blake?
That's the easiest straw poll we've taken.
I know,
ever.
really.
Seriously.
Okay, facilities, Mr. Hagerty.
Well, as I mentioned before, we do have a meeting scheduled. The thing that comes to mind is 2 things. Actually, what Alex has just covered with us, and also what Peter mentioned earlier, that the architect is going to be in, the architect's going to be in to discuss a week later as part of our board meeting, the plans for the new capital improvement plan. So I don't know if that will be coming up. The thing that I've been working on, the thing that I find interesting, is looking at the data that we got from Ross Associates on their work, and also looking at the changes in the district between last year and this year in terms of primarily motivated by closing Staley, which redistributed students, and how that affected, the number of students that are in different buildings, the number of sections and the size of those sections and whatnot. And I think it's clear to me, at least, that the solution to a lot of that problem is what Ross was recommending, which was that banding of the grade level, so you balance the numbers. Now, the numbers that I have reflect the enrollment reports from last year. I used the March report, the enrollment report from October, which reflects what we're doing now, and the numbers that were in the Ross's report, which are all slightly different, but they're in the ballpark. And I'm not sure. At some point in time, we want to discuss that, and I don't know. Peter, do you have any feeling for when that'll happen? I know that Ross is going to be doing some more analysis. Do we have another milestone coming up with them?
I believe the next milestone is in early January.
Sure, well, early January, that's going fast.
Yeah.
So,
Will
So
there
maybe-
be another meeting like there was on the 29th? Will there be?
I believe they were planning on doing some of that. I'm not so certain when they were planning on scheduling that.
I just had some parents reach out, and
do
I
know that
obviously
there
didn't
was.
make
I
it.
do know that there was some discussion as a result of that meeting to maybe do some meetings in schools with teachers directly, but I don't know where they stand on that.
We had about 60, is that correct? About 60 in attendance?
I'd
Yeah,
say so.
almost all staff.
50 to 60.
Yeah.
So we need to do a better job reaching parents.
Yeah, we do.
we had a lot, well, quite a few parents that were also teachers.
Yeah, the same, yeah.
But they
Yeah,
definitely.
normally, as you know, and when anytime you talk about redistricting, most times you won't have the parent input until they know how it might affect them, and then they
Then they come.
want
Yeah.
to raise their voices. So
So at this point, I don't think we need the meeting on the 14th, especially if I can get some of this information out to everybody, so we're still we're all on the same page in terms of what I see as the differences between last year and this year in terms of the makeup of the schools. And I mean, the impacts are pretty obvious on the smaller schools. They're really jammed with the students. I mean, they're working now, but I don't think they want to work that way too long. And there are obviously, there's not a lot of excess capacity out there if we
Right.
gain some more students. What was sort of interesting was there is a difference in the enrollment year over year, last year over this year. And it turns out a lot of, we had students go to BOCES, we had an increase in the homeschooled students, that took the number of students that we were dealing with in the elementary schools down a bit, which helped. But, you wonder, are those homeschool kids going to come back when, when things change a little bit? So anyhow, it's interesting data. I don't know what it all means, but I think it really, it's interesting when you look at what Ross put together in terms of the possibilities going forward. The only thing I didn't like about his presentation was the idea, the option to go to 2 middle schools. I didn't see how that could work, without big changes. But anyhow.
I don't know, I guess I'd like to still maybe meet and delve into that report a little bit more. I don't know that we've had a chance to talk about it as a group since.
We can do that.
The
We can do that on the
presentation.
14th if you want to do that.
I think that would be helpful.
4:30.
I agree.
Fine. We'll keep it on the-
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hagerty.
You're welcome.
Educational programs,
I
Dr.
think-
Fontana.
I think Chris handled that well and we're doing well and we have a couple tasks we're working on, so more to follow.
Happy New Year.
Very good, thank you. Equal operations, Mr. Malati.
I'll do my best on my glasses.
Need help? No.
Nah, if I run into problems.
Okay, if you start saying it wrong, I'll nudge you.
Okay. Action item
I'll get a little closer.
number 1, resolution to appoint instructional personnel. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints the following instructional personnel: Joanne Wolcott, school social worker, step BS 67 plus.
You just say as listed below.
Yeah,
too. Cover
I
yourself.
will from now on. 56,910 prorated, effective date 12/6/21 to 12/5/25. I move the resolution.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Malachi, seconded by Dr. Fontana. Any discussion?
Do we know a location for this person yet?
I believe she is at Joy. Sure, off the top of my head, I think there might be some shifting around. She is the last one we have coming on board though, so we are now full with what we have projected for.
We're to get her last certification, that's why. I'd like to look
Yes.
at. Any other discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor? say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 2, resolution to appoint home tutor. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, Board of Education hereby appoints the following: Dorothy Irvin, home tutor, $26 per hour, 11/29/2021 through April 30th, I'm sorry, June 30th, 2022. I move the resolution.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Malachi, seconded by
Elena.
Ms. Reddick. Any discussion?
No?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 3, resolution to appoint non-instructional personnel provisional. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, Board of Education hereby appoints the following non-instructional personnel probationary: Dylan Mazer, computer special,
Provisional.
oh, provisional, I'm sorry, did I say probation?
You did.
Provisional. That's my other job. Dylan Mazer, computer specialist training, $31,000 prorated degree. Effective date, November 29, 2021. I move the resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Davis. Any discussion? All in favor?
I'm sorry, this is the position that we talked about that was vacated by the retirement that
Yes,
had
this is one of them.
had been on film.
Yep,
Okay,
And Dylan's been an intern for the district for several years.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? say
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 4, resolution to appoint non-instructional personnel probationary. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints the following non-instructional personnel probationary as listed in the agenda at action item 4, page 7. Move the resolution.
Second by Ms. McGurl, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item number 5, resolution to appoint winter sports personnel. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints the following extracurricular personnel as listed at action item number 5 and page 8 of the agenda. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hagerty. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 7, resolution to appoint extracurricular musical personnel.
Yep.
Yeah, we skipped that one.
Oh, that's right, my bad.
6 was removed from the agenda.
Yeah,
No,
Sorry.
how's that?
sorry, Mr. Miller.
I'll start. Action item 7, resolution to appoint extracurricular musical personnel. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints the following extracurricular musical personnel as listed at action item number 7, page 8 in the agenda. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Dr. Fontana. Any discussion?
I have a question. Are all these people associated with the musical or is it a mix?
These are all the RFA musical.
And so,
So they all are, I was wondering about a couple of them. Yeah.
so we are planning to move forward at this point, and do we have a date for?
I do not know
Okay.
what the date is scheduled for the musical. But we are planning to move forward, yes.
Yes.
Has the show been announced? Or?
They normally announce it at open mic
Yeah,
night, so
I
I don't
think
know if
they've
they're
been
gonna
waiting
wait
for
for
that.
their open mic night to announce it then.
When is that?
Open
Well,
mic night.
it's normally the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, but they got postponed to next week and then they postponed it again right now, right?
Yeah, we weren't allowed to do it before Thanksgiving, so we had it set for the 14th and there was a scheduling conflict, so we're trying to get the auditorium booked again.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item number 8, resolution. Is it, should I say 4?
Involuntary.
No, I'm saying should it say 4 involuntary or 2 involuntary?
Involuntarily, should be involuntarily.
Okay, I knew something was wrong. 'Cause it didn't sound right.
Yeah.
All right, so resolution to involuntarily transfer of administrative personnel. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the involuntary transfer of the following administrative personnel. Danielle Hess, Assistant Principal Staley, to Assistant Principal at Gansbourg. I move the resolution.
I second that.
Second by Ms. Davis. Any discussion?
But I have a quick question. We didn't do this previously. I thought we did this at the same time we did Mr. Crown.
She moved, she worked there. We are officially placing her there in the building now.
Yeah, we
Okay.
didn't.
Um,
get formal.
Well, when I did the visits for principal appreciation, I do have to say, Ms. Pouliot said she's been a tremendous asset there and it's been a big help with the influx of students they took. So we appreciate Danielle taking that on,
Right.
as we do with what Sean did.
Glad to hear that. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, carried.
Action item number 9, resolution to appoint instructional personnel probationary. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints the following instructional personnel probationary. Mariah May Stroud, teacher assistant, salary $17,604 prorated, effective date 12/2/21 to 12/1/25. I move the resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hagerty. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 10, resolution to create positions that upon, resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the creation of the following positions. Boys modified assistant basketball coach, food service helper, 3 3/4 hours per day, and food service helper, 5 hours per day. I move the resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Davis. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 11, resolution to appoint winter sports coaches. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the following winter sports coach. Tiana Scales Field, assistant girls varsity basketball, at a salary of $2,695, effective date 12/1/2021 through March 15, 2022, and move the resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hagerty. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Had a meeting the other day, kind of a lot of the same issues with respect to trying to attract both instructional and non-instructional personnel. But Jeff continues to work on it. And then I think that there was some talk about, was it therapist position?
Yeah, looking for a speech pathologist to help cover the supervision of the school therapist. Yes.
So there's, and then we dealt with some of the positions that were on the agenda on Tuesday that we were able to get on the agenda tonight with respect to the coaching positions and some of the food service. So I'm glad that we were able to get together and get those on the agenda quickly so that we can help out in those areas. Other than that, we're having our meeting on a Monday next time around. So those of you that are expecting us to meet on Tuesday, just take note that our meeting will be on Monday, December 20th, ahead of the next board meeting. And that's about it.
So would you mind adding something for your agenda for that week? When we did the Pride Walk at RFA, there had been a conversation regarding potential need for, but that hasn't been brought up, a technology teacher. That there were sections that were shut out and kids were, apparently it's a very hard position to find, but there were kids who missed the opportunity. And we have such amazing facilities. I hate to see us not capitalizing on that. So if we could
Okay.
include that, it would be great.
Certainly, we have the esteemed Miss Shelley Schultz that is.
Right.
That's right, you're right here, Shelley.
Yeah, so she can put it on the agenda.
Thank you.
for us. Thanks, Shelley. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Malachi. Policy, Ms. Davis.
Action items, resolution, item 1, resolution to accept the second reading and adoption of policy 0110.1, sexual harassment of students. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the second reading and adoption of policy 0110.1, sexual harassment of students be accepted by the Board of Education. I move the resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. McGurl. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item number 2, resolution to accept the second reading and adoption of policy 0110.2, sexual harassment of employees. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the second reading and adoption of policy 0110.2, sexual harassment of employees be accepted by the Board of Education. I move the resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. McGurl. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 3, resolution to accept the second reading and adoption of regulation 0110R, sexual harassment. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the second reading and adoption of regulation 0110R, sexual harassment be accepted by the Board of Education. I move the resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Malachi. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, carried.
Peter, I apologize. I'm behind on giving you an agenda. We'll do that first thing tomorrow.
That's okay.
Our next meeting is on Monday. Are there items that we now need to abolish now that we've adopted these, or are these just replacements? If you could double check that, that would be helpful. We continue to make progress on moving over to the NISPA numbering and the NISPA policy format. I'm looking to them for our next installment, and please tell me that since our goal was January 1st, we have an update on board docs.
We've sent the agreement to them. I have yet to hear back from them.
Okay, so we will be meeting on Monday at 4:30.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Miscellaneous business. Resolution 1, resolution determining the appeal of the finding that a student's IHIP is not in compliance. Whereas the Board of Education of Rome City School District, the board, received a written appeal from a determination by the superintendent of schools that a student's IHIP is not in compliance with section 100.10 subsection C5. And whereas the board has considered the matter in the executive session to protect the privacy of a student's educational records and personally identifiable information under federal and state law, pursuant to a motion made and approved under Public Officers Law, section 108.3, during a regular business meeting of the board on November 10th, 2021. And now therefore be it resolved that having heard the appeal presented by a parent, guardian / person in a parental relationship of a student and a response of the administration and due deliberation having been had, the appeal is denied and the decisions of the superintendent of schools is affirmed, and it is further resolved that the president of the Board of Education or the district clerk as designee of the president is hereby authorized to prepare a letter consistent with this resolution and with the deliberations and executive session to be prepared, signed and mailed to the appellant, and to include in that letter language appropriate to inform the appellant of the time and manner in which the aggrieved party may file an appeal of this decision with the New York State Commissioner of Elections. It is further,
Education.
what did I say?
Election.
Education first today. And it is further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Mr. Malatch. Any discussion? Okay, it's ready for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
One.
I'm opposed.
2 opposed. Motion carries 7 to
6
2.
to 6 to 2 is only.
Oh, no, so, okay, 6 to 2. There's no old business. Is any other thing to be discussed? Or we're going to executive session?
We did the Wednesday in January. Okay, good.
Okay,
I just have one quick question. Update on transportation. Can anyone tell me where we are on the app, the tracking app for?
They finally got back to me. I just sent an email out to everybody looking for about 10 volunteers, elementary, and middle school, high school. And hopefully by January, we'll have to go.
By January, it should be fully up and running.
That's the latest. Yeah.
And how have our situations been?
As far as having buses, they've been very well. I mean, haven't heard too many, we had a few issues up at BOCES with the midday runs, which we always do. But really, we haven't had the lateness of the buses, we're staffed. We're staffed, haven't heard too many complaints whatsoever. Biggest issue is behavioral on buses, and we're trying to deal with that as the staff's getting numerous write-ups. They're, more on their plate, the principals and the directors, and trying to, get through that piece of it. But as far as having enough buses or enough drivers, we seem to be very well.
how about monitors?
Last I checked, we had 6 additional monitors outside of the ones needed for supported learning, and we've been trying to put them, Andy does a good job moving them around where needed as far as having all, it's a non-aidable expense.
Mhm.
If we wanted to direct them to try to hire more monitors, I'm sure they would try. I'm not sure we'd get them, but
Mhm.
it's roughly probably about 14.
But are we concentrating them on where we got problems?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Andy does a very good job at, principals email them, through work will tell you.
Mhm.
Karen Miller's very good at, and we try to move as many as we have.
Okay.
Problem is there's 6 extra, and if a couple of supported learning ones call in, they gotta
Mhm.
cover on the supported
Right.
learning, so it's not,
Gotcha.
it's not really as many as we'd like to have.
Yeah, I had a conversation recently because I remember several years ago, Sherry Luby had really good success with that Peaceful Bus program. But I've been told that it's really hard to implement that when you have moving drivers, when you haven't found consistent people for the routes yet. So I'm hoping that we see things start to stabilize more, because when that person is familiar to the kids and can start building a relationship, we hope that those behaviors will improve. But obviously, we look to parents for help on that too, of setting appropriate expectations for bus behavior. And I also just want to thank any of the parents who took on transporting their kids to alleviate some of this. Can you give us some data in the future on what we have to look at for projections for drivers for next year I know we asked parents to do this for the rest of this year, but we hope that's not something, because the fallout of that has been, I'm hearing lots of complaints about the bottlenecking and worse traffic and how long waits for pickup time, especially now that the weather has changed, because the traffic's, that's been the cause and effect of being able to stabilize our bus routes, was more parents dropping their kids off and picking up. So I appreciate that you have stayed on top of that and been responsive to every individual request we've had, Rob. It's been really invaluable. So thank you.
My sister-in-law told me that their bus driver from Johnny Joy Bus 22 gives their kids donuts. Yes. Yeah, it's very sweet.
Wow.
It's just nice little
Yeah,
pickup.
Sure.
Yeah,
Make them want to get on the bus.
they love it. They love it. They're like, where's the bus driver?
Positive, tangible, visible
Yeah.
reinforcement.
I love it.
Awesome. Very good. Anything else, folks?
Thank you for that.
Okay, we're gonna go into executive session and we will not be coming back into regular meetings. So I will,
The purpose of the,
I'm sorry, it's legal matters that pertain to an individual employee. That's sufficient, Mr. Malachi?
yeah, I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure. we
no, I
state that
know,
on
I
record.
know.
So I move that we go into executive session.
Second.
Second by Mr. Moretti.
Struggle there.
I did struggle.
I've been quiet tonight.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are in executive session. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.